Hello, hello, hello. We are family. I got all you sisters with me. Oh my God, it is so late, you guys. It is literally 5 o'clock on the dot, and I fell asleep super early. I got up like an hour ago, and I've been driving around. I was like, I'm gonna get right in my car and vlog, and then go right back home and go back to sleep. I like woke up out of nowhere, and I started listening to I'll Be Gone in the Dark, about the Golden State Killer, which is the book that we're listening to for the book club. And it is so spooky and so scary that I was like, oh my God. If you're listening, okay, so many people are listening to it on Audible instead of like actually reading the physical book, which is interesting. It is like spooky. Like I almost didn't want to get out of my car last night to go into the house. Like I was so scared. I was like, this is some spooky stuff. And I don't know, like, it's interesting, like, whenever you read true crime, because mostly it's just the details, like, that make it scary. But it's not like they're using, like, I don't know, it's not like, true crime is so scary to me because it's almost like an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, so to speak. Like, that's why I have never been able to read Helter Skelter. Like, I have been terrified to read Helter Skelter because I would sit outside and I would read it, and then I would, like, hear a leaf blow down the street, and I would be, like, inside, like, that quick. And, it's kind of the same thing with this book, and I think it's that my imagination starts to spin, and I'm like, you know, the reality is it's really scary is that there are so many serial killers, so many killers out there, just out there, you know, that you never know who you're passing on the street, if they're a serial killer or not. And I know that kind of sounds like, oh yeah, whatever, but like, I mean, it is possible. You never know who you're walking by, and they kind of just like hide out in society, you know? But what it makes the book so scary to me are like the finite details about each of the cases, and how like methodical these killers are in like searching people out, and like the links they go to, and like, okay, like I was just listening to this one, like in this book, she goes through and she kind of just goes after case after case after case explaining them. And this one part, the bird, like this woman had a bird bath in her backyard, and it was like moved underneath the phone cord to like to cut the phone cord. And it's just stuff like that that is like scary. I don't know, I've drank so much water today though. Let's see, y'all want to hear about my day? You're like, no, we could care less. I got up today, and I did not sleep very well last night at all. I could not sleep. And I went and got my hair cut at 10:30. What did I say? My videos today I filmed with just my hair. I mean, not just my hair and no face, but... and then after that, I went and I met up with a friend for coffee, and a sober friend. And then I went and picked up PP's medicine, his vet medin, which is so expensive. I was thinking about this today. Okay, it's 30 pills for $39 or something like that. We need to look into like one of those like 1-800-PET-MEDS or something, because it's so, and we go through Costco, which is like the cheapest place I found for meds for dogs. It's like half the price of what we paid going to the vet. But PB has to take 2 of them a day, which means it's like $2 a day for this vet medin alone. I don't know. I blow money on other stuff, so it's like, I mean, I can afford it, but it's still expensive. And then after that, I ran some errands. I came home. I filmed my videos. And then right as I called and talked with Tanya, and I talked for a long time on the phone today. And then after she tried a new meeting last night, so she was telling me about this meeting that she went to with this woman that she sponsors. And she was like, oh, I want you to try this meeting. So I may do that next week with them. And then getting off from work at 8:15. He has like this thing that he has to do tomorrow for work. So he was going to bed early, he said. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm literally sitting here watching TV and uploading these videos. I said, I'm so tired. I said, I'm like tired. Like, I didn't get any sleep last night. And then he called me back. I said, I think I'm going to go and run and get something to eat at the grocery store, which I did. And then he was like, I think I'm going to go and, oh my God, that scared the shit out of me. There's like a guy walking. Look at this. Do you see this? I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a guy walking across the road. And he's like in all black. And I'm like, oh my God, after my whole discussion of the Golden State Killer, I feel like the Golden State Killer is right there always. So anyway, he texted me. He was like, hey, I'm going to go have a drink with so-and-so, one of his girlfriends. And I was like, okay. And so he went and had a drink with her. And then he came home like an hour later. And I was like, I need to lay down. And he was like, okay. And he was like, I'm going to bed anyway. So we both laid down at like 10:30, and I set my alarm for like midnight. And after it went off once, Alex like rolled over and he was like, sweetie, can you turn that off, please? So I turned it off, and I was like getting up. I like sat up, and then I was like, just 5 more minutes. And I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning because the dogs wanted to go out. I don't think I would have woken up, honestly. That was my day. I had a good day today. I mean, I did other stuff. Like, I sat and I read for a while, and this person that watches my videos, she always tells me to watch Westworld. Hello, you know who you are. And so like I put it like, I have like a list of TV shows I want to watch, and I put it, it's like number 3 or 4. But I've had like 2 people since she told me to watch this tell me to watch it. They're like, you would really like it. And so today when I was at the house, I put it on, like the first episode, and like the intro was like these like robots and stuff, and like and the music was really scary, and it was like I was by myself alone. And I was like, I don't know that I can watch this right now. I'm a little scared. So I'm going to watch it. I'm going to do some binge TV watching this weekend, I think, and just kind of relax a little bit. Oh my God. We are family. I am not going to do the Heaven live stream. I have thought a lot about it. I'm halfway through the book. I'm not going to rush and finish it in time to do the live stream. I'm just not. I don't want to. I don't want it to be bullshitty. I don't want it to be disingenuous. I may do it later down the road, but we're just going to move on to the next book. A lot of people didn't read it anyway. A few people are like, I'm really disappointed. I wanted to do this live stream. Well, we will do it at some point. But I'm just not going to force myself to finish reading a book that I don't enjoy. And so I'm just not going to do that. So we'll just get back on the regular schedule and go on for I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and the next one's going on from there. I'm really surprised like that I did not like Heaven. Like, I loved V.C. Andrews' books back in the day. You know, this is like an interesting kind of thing. It's like, you know, a book that you read at one point in your life is not necessarily a book that you're going to like later in your life. Like, you know, when I read Catcher in the Rye in high school, like, I absolutely loved it. And I was like, I so relate to this book. Like, you know, I mean, I know it's trite because it's Catcher in the Rye, but like, that's how I felt. Like, I felt like I so relate to this book. But as I've gotten older, like, I've still enjoyed it, but it doesn't have the same emotions and the same feelings that it did before, you know? And I did like a buddy reads of like all the Salinger books, and I actually put a Salinger book on our reading list. We're going to read Franny and Zoe this fall, but I haven't read Franny and Zoe I don't know, since high school. I don't remember reading it at all. But, I mean, I remember this, like, one scene where Franny is sitting, like, she's at a date. Like, that's, I remember that, I think, but that's the only thing I remember. But you know, we did this buddy reads, like, it was going to be, like, a group buddy reads, but it was just the two of us putting it on BookTube. And, so we were reading, like, a Salinger book every week. And I started reading Catcher in the Rye, and it just really made me depressed. Like, it just really made me sad. I don't know, like, I no longer felt like that, like, I no longer obviously related to that teen angst. I just felt like there's just a sadness about that, you know, I think. I don't know, it's just... Looking back, like, I kind of feel like I know a lot of, like, Holden Caulfield types that kind of never really grew out of it to some degree. Like, I have this girlfriend of mine that I went to high school with, and she's still, like, I mean, she's just, like, bitter about everything in her life. Like, nothing's ever, like, gone her way, and if you talk to her, she's just always miserable. She's just always complaining about her life, and she's always been that way, like, always. You know, I'm like, girl, has not one good thing happened to you ever in your entire life? Like, could you find a little bit of gratitude, please? Like, seriously. I mean, and I'm gonna be honest, like, if she had a lot of things to complain about, I would be empathetic towards that. But she has a pretty good life. I mean, it's not like everything was handed to her, and she works, but she's a real cute house, and, yeah, I'm just like, but every time you talk to her, she's just so miserable, you know? And it's like, I don't know, and that's kind of what, like, reading that was about for me. So it's interesting that, like, books at different times of your life have different, like, they give you different responses. Or, like, it's the same with movies, I think. You know, maybe not so much with, like, comedies that you watch over and over again, but, like, I think with, like, certain, like, dramatic movies, like, if you watch it at one point in your life, you know, like, and it can work both ways, too. You know, like, when I first saw, like, Erin Brockovich with Julia Roberts is a movie that, like, really, really, like, inspired me. Really inspired me. And when I initially saw it, like, I remember the year that she was up for the Academy Award and she won it, and I was, like, so excited. I mean, that was one of the best Academy Awards ever, and I think my mom was still alive for that. I know she was still alive for that because we watched it together. She wore that black and white gorgeous dress, and she said, "Don't I look pretty?" But to win an Academy Award, I mean, God. Oh my God. You want to talk about bucket list? Just to have that moment, you know? But anyway, I watched it like a year ago. Like, I had it on the background while I was doing stuff. And it was more impactful to me than the first time that I had seen it. I mean, I own the DVD, and I used to watch it a lot back in the day, and I always have it just on in the background. But, like, I hadn't watched it in a few years, and I watched it, and it was just, like, you know, 10 times more. And the other thing is, like, I read for Booktubeathon 2 years ago, which is a readathon on BookTube. I did all books that have been adapted into movies. And so I did, like, Jaws, Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. What else did I read? Brokeback Mountain, which is what I'm about to talk about. I can't remember what else. A Single Man by Chris Isherwood. That was really good, actually. That was really, really good. But I read all of these books that were made into movies, and my mom had given me Brokeback Mountain, and because she loved, that was like one of my mom's favorite movies. And like, when people would say to her, like, I don't understand, like, one of your favorite movies is a gay love story, and she'd say, it's not a gay love story, it's a love story. And my mom was always so forward thinking, you know, like she got that long before the love is love is love is love is love. I mean, my mom was singing that tune, you know. And so I watched it that year, and it just really made me sad. Like, the first time I saw it, I kind of was like, I can't believe, like, this we've come a long way for this movie to actually, I remember when I went and saw it in the movie theater, and it was like myself, and I think I may have seen it with my mom in the movie theater. I don't remember who I saw it with, but it was like all these straight couples. There were like not a lot of gay people in there, and I mean, not that I was aware of. It appeared to me that it was a lot of straight couples, and I was like, this is interesting to me that this is where we're at. Like, we've come a long way, and I was really excited about the movie, and I thought the movie had like a lot of really good points to it, and thought it was beautifully shot and done. And I just thought it was kind of like a tragic but beautiful story. The last time I watched it, I was like, this is depressing. Like, this is just a depressing movie. This is a depressing story. And I don't know, it's like, you know, things change for you over time. And I remember, like, my mom used to always listen to folk music when I was growing up, like Judy Collins and, you know, Neil Young and Joan Baez and Joni Mitchell and all these people, Arlo Guthrie, and, you know, and I would say to her, and then, you know, the Grateful Dead, Led Zeppelin, those were some of her favorite bands. And I remember saying to my mom, like, oh, of course, Janis Joplin, you know, but she didn't listen to that music, like, later in life. Like, my mom listened to, like, she loved dance remixes. I would make her, like, dance remixes of, like, Janet Jackson and, like, Deborah Cox and stuff like that. And she loved to walk to that music. She loved reggae music, like Bob Marley. And she loved the band Garbage by Shirley Manson. And I would say to her, like, your music tastes have changed so much. Like, don't you miss listening to Judy Collins? And she'd say, oh, sweetie, that music just makes me so sad today. Like, it just reminds me of a period of my life. It just makes me so sad. And, like, I really never understood it, you know? Like, because, but, like, I do today. And as much as I think people think I like to cry, like, I don't like to cry. I don't have a problem showing emotion. They're two different things. But as much as I feel that way, at the same time, it's like, I don't like purposely feeling sad, so I don't seek out the same kind of music that I used to. There are times that, like, I purposely do because I feel like I need to feel some emotion. But by and large, like, I don't know. It's like, it's interesting. Like, I've been driving around listening to the Swedish House Mafia set at Miami Ultra this year, and for some reason, like, listening to it, I just, like, bawl through the whole thing, and I don't really know, I, like, was thinking, I think every time I put it on, I, like, start crying, and, because at the beginning of it, he's like, they, like, start playing this music, and they're like, you can just go listen to it on SoundCloud. It's fantastic. And then it goes in and it starts playing this song, and then he kind of stops, and he's like, this is I Am Axwell, and this is Ingrosso, and this is Steve Angelo, and you know that we are always Swedish House Mafia, and the crowd goes crazy. I'm, like, bawling my eyes out, like, listening to this, and I don't know why. Like, I don't know if it's just, like, the coolest thing to me, or because I've, like, tracked their whole career. I don't know really what it is, you know, like, but I am inspired and, like, emotionally moved by music and things like that. But sometimes when I listen to, like, Mr. Tambourine Man by Bob Dylan, it makes me sad today. So I don't, like, when I'm driving around, like, I drove around today and listened to that, and I listened to, like, Whitney Houston remixes. Like, I don't really go to trying to listen to the really sad shit anymore, you know what I mean? Unless I feel like I need to kind of provoke some emotion. And then I do. But even then, I don't know, like, and what I mean by that is, like, if you're having a day that you feel like you need to get some emotion out, cry, whatever, you know, I think that's healthy, you know, to, like, listen to some really sad-ass music, watch a sad movie, and I think it's healthy. What I don't think is healthy is to stay in it for days on end. But I don't typically do that. I don't know. But I kind of get what she meant now, you know? There was a period where, so we had, like, a library in our room, or in my house I grew up in, that had, like, you would step down into it, and it was like every wall was bookshelves, floor to ceiling, that were built into the walls. Wood floors, French doors. It was like 50-foot ceilings. It's a fantastic room. And it was like where we had our stereo system. People don't even have stereo systems in their house anymore, do they? But it's like where we had our stereo system. And this chair that I have in my bedroom now, which is this black, like, leather and chrome Scandinavian chair with an ottoman. My mom would sit in it, and she would just sit there and drink like wine or gin and tonics with these big headphones on and just smoke one cigarette after another. Like, I mean, I can remember, like, she would put me to bed, and then, like, I would, like, did you ever sneak down as a kid? And I would sneak down, and she would have the door closed, and the door was, like, right at the bottom of the stairs, and I would look inside this French door, you know, and she'd just be sitting there, like, just sitting there, just, like, smoking, you know? And what's really weird about that, looking back to, like, looking, as I'm telling you the story, is that there was something about that was, like, attractive to me. That desperation, like, I've always, not today, but, like, in my using, I was very attracted to desperation. And I remember, like, my mom would just sit there for hours and drink and listen to music, and she'd put on, like, a Judy Collins record, or it was always records, it was always albums back then, you know? And she'd just sit there and just not talk on the phone, but just listen to music and just, like, drink for hours. I think back on that kind of, it's so weird, isn't it? Like, I don't ever remember, like, sitting in my apartment and, like, just drinking and, like I can remember drinking and listening to music and, like, talking on the phone or something like that, but, like, or having a friend over, but not just sitting there, like, just listening to music. But she was always very emotionally moved by music. My mom has, I have it now. I don't have the magazine anymore. I can't find it. It's Newsweek or Time or something, but it's Janis Joplin at Ravinia in Chicago. And the cover, I don't know if I've shared this on here before. It's in our basement somewhere. It's like a major magazine, or it was like a newspaper or something, but the whole cover is my mom on my dad's shoulders doing the peace sign at a Janis Joplin concert in Chicago, and she's got on a t-shirt that is an original Dylan and the Dead t-shirt, and I actually have the t-shirt at home, and I took it into this vintage shop in Indianapolis to ask her if she wanted to buy it. She said, I can't afford it. She was like, you need to hold on to that. She's like, you should have that framed or something. She was like, that shirt is fantastic. She's like, you know, there weren't a lot of those made. Like, that is so crazy. My mom has like stuff that I didn't even think, like, was cool. Like, she has, like, my mom played guitar, so she has guitar, like, music books. Like, she has, like, original, like, music of, like, you know, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and, like, Simon and Garfunkel, that, like, literally on it says, like, 3 cents, and she bought it at, like, a music shop in Chicago. And some very cool guitar picks. She didn't play later in life. She also played that thing, I don't know what it's called, harpsichord? I don't know if that's what it's called, but it's like, folk players a lot of times play it. And I have it in the basement. Did I get rid of it? Maybe I got rid of it, I don't know. But it's that thing that's like this, and then you, like, hold it in your lap and you, like, strum it. Oh my God, my mother was so good at it. It was, like, kind of creepy how good she was at it. And, you know, my mom that struggled with all of this, like, stuff that she couldn't do, like, there was so much that, like, just came naturally to her. Like, I wanted to learn how to play. I mean, anytime you go through a hippie stage, which I did, or a rock and roll stage, you want to learn how to play guitar, right? Well, I wanted to learn how to play guitar. I mean, I was like, I'm going to learn how to play guitar. And I always wanted to just, like, be able to be that person that, like, could be at a party and just, like, whip out the guitar and start playing it, you know? And, So, like, one year I was like, Mom, you've got to teach me how to play guitar. She's like, it's so easy, it's just chords. She'd always say that, it's so easy, it's just chords. And so she'd start showing me, and like, she would get so frustrated because I couldn't do it. And she'd be like, sweetie, she was like, it's very, very easy. It's literally like, it's chords, okay? And she would show it to me, and I didn't get it. I did not understand it for the life of me. And I would just sit there and kind of like strum, and I wanted to be like, I wanted to see, I didn't want the lesson. I wanted to sit down and just be able to play. You know what I mean? That's who I was as a guitar player. Well, I wasn't a guitar player. I never have been. But I still have her guitar down in the basement. She always wanted to learn how to play classical guitar because Jerry Garcia played a 12-string classical guitar. And my mom was in singing, was it Singing Hoosiers? I think is what it's called at IU. And she would always like, this was like something that was really funny. That place says donuts on the side of this van. It just said donuts. I'll take one, thanks. But she would say, I was like, whenever we were like together for like family stuff, she would say, I was a Singing Hoosiers at IU, the choir. Kathy was not. Is what she would always follow it up, and she would say Kathy was not, about my Aunt Kathy. And I guess Singing Hoosiers was kind of a big deal. I think there was like 100 members, and like it was really kind of selective and hard to get into. And my aunt would say, well, I'm a good singer too. My mom would say, Kathy, you're tone deaf. And my Aunt Kathy was totally tone deaf. I mean, she could not carry a note to save her life. My mom was a really good singer. I think my mom would really like, she wouldn't understand like the videos that I make on my drama channel, but she would get a kick out of like the songs. She would be like, you are referencing so many songs of your childhood. Like, she would love that. But there's a lot of songs that she wouldn't understand too, like Lita Ford. She wouldn't get that. I mean, that's my love, is like, this is how, okay, so this is how I fell in love with Lita Ford. This is so silly. So, I mean, when I was in high school, I loved the song Kiss Me Deadly, okay? I just like, it's a theme song for a generation. I'm sorry, it just is. I love it. And, oh, wait, where am I at on that? 27, 24, okay. But when I was in high school, I watched one night the movie, why can't I think of what, Foxes, with Jodie Foster. And, I cannot think of her name now. It's Sherry something, but it's spelled like cherry. She plays like the bleach blonde girl in it. And she was in The Runaways with Joan Jett, which I've never seen the movie The Runaways because I heard it was bad. But she was in The Runaways with Joan Jett and Lita Ford. They were The Runaways. There was another girl in there too, but I can't remember what her name was. Anyway, and The Runaways were the ones that sang, you know, Cherry Bombs. You guys remember that song back in the day? Don't wanna go, wait, something like don't wanna go to school, don't wanna, anyway, they were a girl band, okay? And they were like huge popularity in the late 70s, early 80s. And they were like this defiant rebel band, and I love their music. I love it. And so I fell in love with the movie Foxes, which if you have never seen, is absolutely fantastic. It's with Jodie Foster, and it's about 4 girls. And I'd also like really loved this movie called Over the Top, Over the Something, and it's with Matt Dillon, and it was kind of the same time, and it's about all these kids that have like these, I fell in love with all these kind of like late 70s, early 80s like era movies that were like all about like really bad, like, it's gonna stop here in a second, we're 20 minutes and 30 seconds, but like drug culture and like a lot of drinking, and like I fell in love with those kind of, you know, movies. And so I was watching a lot of those at the time, and I fell in love with The Runaways, and that's how I fell in love also with Lita Ford, who at that point was a lot older, obviously, but I still loved her music. Okay, I'm gonna stop this, and I will, because it's got 5 seconds left, and I'll be back in just a second. And I'm back. Okay, so anyway, I was listening to all that music and stuff and watching those movies, and I became a little obsessed with that whole kind of like generation, that era. I wish I could remember what that movie is with Matt Dillon. It was really good though. Over the Top, something like that. Anyway, if you want to find out what it is, I have it actually on VCR somewhere. But if you want to find it, it's about these kids that live in like suburbanite California, and it's like they're all just a bunch of drug addicts. It's very sad, but it's, I don't know. So anyway, it's kind of like a sadder, during the time version of Dazed and Confused. So anyway, I kind of became obsessed with them. Well, then like a lot of time went by, and like my music, you know, interest totally changed. And when I was like in early college, I listened to exclusively like, I mean, what we would kind of consider hippie music a little bit, but like grassroots music. You know, the Grateful Dead, Leonard Skinner, Marshall Tucker Band. Lots of folk music. But then also like the Indigo Girls, I loved. Dave Matthews Band, I started listening to like early college, before like they blew up, actually. Who else did I listen to back in the day? Just all of that, you know, a lot of Neil Young and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Bob Dylan, always lots of Bob Dylan. And like in high school I listened to like kind of exclusively like punk music. And then somewhere, like it's weird because I've gone through like these various stages, and then like when I of course started going out a lot, I started listening to like a lot of club music, like club mixes and stuff, and kind of fell in love with that. And then also like the Cranberries, I was really into the Cranberries for a long time, and like Kate Bush, and like either kind of like very what you would call like coffee house intellectual kind of music, or like dance mixes. And but also like I really loved a lot of like R&B and rap during that period, and listened to a lot of it, like Snoop Dogg and like Faith Evans and like Tupac, and I listened to all of that back in the day. And also, this is interesting because I was just listening to it today. I really like a lot of gospel music. And I don't really know how I got like into listening to gospel music. I can't remember, like a friend introduced me to it, but today I was listening to CeCe Winans, I Surrender Thee. I love CeCe Winans. Oh my God, you want to talk about a fucking voice? My God. Anyway, so my music taste changed a lot. And then like my friend Paul and I, when we started hanging out, and that was like after my first ex and I, like we broke up, my friend Paul and I got really close again. Like we've kind of gone through phases in our life because we were both single at that time. And we were listening to like all these like old like 80s songs, like Meeting in the Ladies' Room by Climax, and just all of these hilarious old songs. And we started listening to the Runaways and Lita Ford. And I got really in to all of that again. And that's when I was wearing like lots of like Western shirts with pearl buttons and like vintage concert t-shirts that were real tight. Like that was when I was in the greatest shape of my entire life, and I was probably about 165, 170. I was running every day. I was a vegetarian, like I had been for a long time. I was just so like healthy, and just except for that I was smoking probably 2 packs a day, and I just was driven and having so much fun. Driven though in a different way than I am today, like very career minded, but I was going out a lot on the weekends and having fun and stuff with my friends. And my late 20s, 28 and 29, other than the fact that I had just been diagnosed with epilepsy, was like really 2 really good years for me. And so we started listening to that music, and then later, like, I remember he just like texted me out of the blue, like years later, about this documentary that had been made about the Runaways. And so I went and watched it, and it like caught up with, like, I don't know what the documentary is called. If somebody knows, put it in the comment section below. I would love to watch it again. But it follows like all of these girls, like, and what had happened to them and where they were at now. And I think the girl's name is like Sherry Scott or something like that, or Sherry Cherry or something like that. I can't think of what her name is. Sherry Curry or something like. Somebody out there knows exactly who I'm talking about. She's a bleach blonde girl from lead singer to the Runaways. Anyway, she was the one that I was obsessed with the most. I'm not a huge Joan Jett fan. I mean, I don't dislike her, but I'm not a huge Joan Jett fan. But like Lita Ford, when she walked away, I just thought Lita Ford was always such a badass, you know? Always, I mean, just such a badass. And so then I watched that documentary, and I kind of like fell in love with all of that again. And that whole idea of like the rebel rocker, I think, is so cool. Like, I just love the whole idea of the rebel rocker, you know? And I think silently inside of all of us, there's a little bit of a rock star, you know? That you feel like, I'm a rock star. And like, in the privacy of your like own house, you're like, you know what? I'm a fucking rock star. And you dance around and you play the music loud, or if you're in your car, you think of yourself as a rock star. And I think that's healthy. I think it builds confidence, you know? And I think that's a way that like music builds confidence for me. But I don't know. I love to sing. I would love to do like open mic nights. I've thought about like wanting to get like a band together that would like, we would play like, I mean, I can't play any kind of instrument, so I, of course, would be the lead vocalist. But I have thought it would be fun to, like, get a band together, you know? And then, like, and Tanya and I have talked about it, too, about us harmonizing. And we would pick, like, old, you know, like a Dolly Parton song and, like, you know. But we would do them, like mix them up into, like, you know, different than how they really sound, you know? And, like, a Bob Dylan song and, like, hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I mean, I know I can't sing. I'm no fool, you know, but the only music that really makes me sad anymore, I think, is the Grateful Dead. I don't listen to them much anymore because it's such a reminder of a period of my life where, I don't know if you guys have like watched the video. I did a video on my main channel about it, and I've also talked about it in my vlog about, I dated this guy off and on throughout my life. Like, I dated him the year I got sober. His name was Todd. But then, like, we would reconnect throughout times of our lives, but like, it never seemed right. Like, either he was with somebody or I was with somebody. But I, honest to God, like before Alex, I thought he's who I would end up with. Like, at some point, I thought, okay, we're gonna like reconnect at like, you know, 40 or 50, and that's who I'll spend the rest of my life with. I really did. I mean, he was like truly the love of my life. And he passed away a couple years ago, and I actually found out about it through Facebook. I was at my friend's house, and I was sitting on her couch, and I was like telling her the story about how like we always like, you know, like, well, and we see each other at random places, like a thrift store or like a restaurant, you know, and just really random places. And this story ended kind of sad because I think he got very involved in drugs, and I don't think that's how he died. I don't know how he died. I don't know the complications of it or anything like that. And I did a whole video about it, but he came back to Indiana. He was staying with his parents in Bloomington, and he wanted to like meet up with me. And so we met up, and he was just like, it was weird. Like, when I met up with him, he was like doing this shaking thing, and like, I think he was like really, like, if I had to guess, I would say I think he was using like methamphetamine, like hardcore. His teeth were like just bad, like rotten, and he was gone. Like, it was just gone, and he was very hurt. you know, I had to say some things that I just knew it wasn't a situation I could put myself into. I just knew that, like, right away. And so we sat there and talked, and he was like, I want to come to Indianapolis. I'm ready. I want to move in with you. And we were both single. And I think he came back here with the intention that that's what was going to happen. And I said, no. I said, I'm a different person today. And I said, you know, I'm not interested anymore. And this isn't who I am. Because we were honest with each other. Like, at some point, we'll probably end up together. And I just was like, no. I said, I'm not the same person anymore that I used to be. And he got really upset. I will never forget. He was take me home. He was like, you're not the same person. I don't want anything to do with you. And he wouldn't talk to me after that, you know? But, like, I don't know, just, like, he was saying things to me that were just, like, I would ask him about, like, he had, like, literally, like, 3 missing teeth. I mean, like, not, like, missing, but, like, cracked. Like, they were, like, cracked in half. And I was like, what happened to your tooth, Todd? And he was like, oh, I got in a really bad bar fight, and this guy hit me with, a beer bottle, and I'm thinking to myself, even if that is the case, like, I can't put myself in this. Like, this is not healthy for me and my sobriety. And my sobriety comes first, always. Always. I was like, I can't do this. You know? And, I don't know, it just was really sad. So I was sitting at my friend Sherry's house, I was sitting on her couch, and I'm, like, going through and I'm, like, showing him her face. I was wanting to show her his Facebook to show, like, you know, what he looks like, and it was so cute, and he had real curly hair, and, I remember he always smelled like the woods, like, and he wore Woodland from Bath & Body Works. I don't even know if they make it anymore, and, he's the one that introduced me to the Dave Matthews Band, but he always smelled like wet, like the woods, and very clean. And so I went to his Facebook page, and, like, people left comments on there, like, 3-4 years before that, saying, like, I miss you so much, I'm so sad that you're gone. And I was like, what is going on? And, like, somebody had left a comment and said, like, what happened? I didn't even know that Todd was gone. And so this girl underneath there had said, like, I was talking to Todd up until the end, blah, 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 whatever, and kind of got some information. So I reached out to her, and this was, like, the hard part for me. I, like, reached out to her and said, like, you know, like, I'm sure you don't know who I am, but, like, Todd and I had dated at one point. And because the reason that we broke up initially was because he wanted to go to IE Bloomington, and it just was long distance, and we were both young, and so we were just like, let's go our separate ways. And he wrote a song for me called St. Peter. He was in a band, and he played bass guitar. And so anyway, it was like the last day that I dated him. I remember seeing him at this festival in Carmel, Indiana, and he was playing in this band, and he was, like, looking at me as he was playing it. But anyway, so I said, you don't know who I am, but this is who I am, and blah, 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 whatever. And I messaged her, and she messaged me back, and she was like, I know exactly who you are. Todd talked about you all the time. You're the love of his life. And she was like, you know, she was like, Todd got very, very sick. And she was like, and I'm being completely transparent. She was like, I don't know if it was, you know, complications from AIDS. She was like, I don't know if that was the case. He was very sick the last couple years. His boyfriend that he had been with for like 10 years had passed away as well. She was like, you know, he was really involved in drug stuff. She was like, I don't know if that was what it was. She was like, I don't know if he took his own life. She was like, his parents wouldn't release any information. There was no funeral, and there was no obituary. Like, his parents just silenced him. And which is so sad. Like, one of the issues, like, we always had dating, you know, I was out, and I think we dated, so I was 22 and a half, because I dated him, like, after I got sober, and, he was, like, I think he was 2 years younger than me, so he was 20. And, like, his parents absolutely would have nothing to do with the fact that he was gay. Like, ever. Like, ever in his life. Like, when he moved away to San Francisco, like, he didn't ever want to come home because they just hated the fact that he was gay. And he was like, if I can't be who I am, then I'm not coming home. Fuck it, I don't care. And, I don't know, I just, like, it breaks my heart, you know? Such a kind soul, such a good guy. So artistic, so if I can see him, like, in my head, like, laughing. He was the first person I ever knew that had septum pierced. He had his septum pierced, like, 20 years ago. I thought it was so hot. God, when we dated. I don't know why I thought that was hot back then. I mean, I don't dislike it now. Like, I kind of like piercings on other people. Like, I don't like 20 facial piercings. That's just my personal thing. But, like eyebrow pierced or, like, 1 or 2 things I think is really kind of hot. And, like, he had his septum pierced way back then, I remember. I think he got his tongue pierced while we were dating, too. Anyway. It's kind of like the sad reality as you get older, as you realize that, like, some of these stories in your life that you think there's going to be a conclusion to, there's no conclusion to. Like, this isn't a TV show. You know, life is not a TV show. It's not a movie. You're not going to have this wrapped up finish. Sometimes things just end. They just end, you know? And mid-season. It's kind of sad, really. But, yep. It was funny, I remember the night that I went home and I was telling Alex about it, and like, this is probably like 7 or 8 years ago now. Well, Alex and I got together and we started dating in 2008, and this was like 12, so this was like 6 years ago. And I said something to him about, I go, oh my God, I have to tell you a story. You know, like, I found this guy on Facebook, and he was like, and he knew who Todd was. I told him, and I was like, this was the guy that, like, I always thought that I would end up with. And Alex looked at me and I go, and he goes, well, you still can if you want. Like, real defensive. And I go, he's dead, Alex. I go, so that's not gonna happen. And he was like, oh, I'm really sorry. How'd you find out? I was like, yeah, he's been dead, like, the entire time that we've been together. I got, like, really upset about it. World's a crazy fucking place, you know? Life is crazy, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't trade my life in for anything, you know? I have a pretty cool life. I have had some pretty cool experiences, all of them. Alright, I'm going to this gas station and get another water, because I am, like, my water that I brought, I'm out of, so. And then I'm going to listen to a little bit of my audiobook and drive home. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Be a rock star. I love you. Bye.